right, just in time for the Monday Report Town Hall session. This is where we make a discussion on the Nairobi that we want. I have some previous leaders here with me. We'd like to hear your views as well. What should be done to fix Nairobi? That is the biggest question we're asking you. The hashtag is Monday Report. Tweet at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Monday Report. Also send in a message. 22422 is the SMS line. Let me start by introducing my guest from my immediate right. Former Deputy Mayor, Nairobi. Asante sana for making time. Lawrence Ngacha, thank you for coming. Followed by Jonathan Mweke, he's a former Deputy Governor for Nairobi as well. Asante for coming in. And Lee Karuri, an architect and also KEPSA trustee. Thank you so much for coming in. Also, on the front row, we have Professor Alfred Omenya. Asante for coming in.
Thank you.
Followed by Kennedy Echesa, who's a law lecturer. And last but not least, Constant Kapp, an urban planner, and Nairobi residents as well at large. They form the majority and will hear their views on what they think should be done to fix Nairobi. Just the same courtesy we're extending to you. This is the show where we talk about the problem and the solution from the people themselves. And Prof, I'll start with you. What do you really think is ailing Nairobi?
Thank you, Trevor and Citizen, for reigniting this. I just wish this could continue, the debate, so that Nairobians can start shaping Nairobi. From where I sit, I think the city has 4 or so categories of challenges. We have a governance problem, a very basic governance problem in terms of the way decisions are made by those in leadership, particularly the political decisions. In this particular instance, we are looking at the county assembly and the office of the governor. We have a management issue in terms of the way the employees of the city are managing different aspects of the city, from waste management to water issue to traffic to so on. We have those. Then we have a service provision challenge in terms of what services we need to provide to the citizens and whether they those services eventually reach them. But I think the last one, which is a bit tricky, is that we also have a common sense issue. We just seem to have lost sense of why governments exist, why cities exist, why citizens exist, and so on. And linked with that also our roles as citizens. I think we have a situation where we don't ask of the city what our rights and so on are. While we think we can actually fix what governments have put in place to fix. So, for example, if you don't have water, you privatize it. If you don't have security, you provide your own security. If you don't have waste collection, garbage, you fix your waste. If you have no municipal schools, you take your children to private schools. If traffic is not working, transport is not working, you buy a car. If you're still stuck there, you get a chopper. So we believe as citizens of Nairobi that you can actually apply private means to solve public problems, and the problems get worse. Within that broader categorization, I think a lot of Nairobians, and we'll hear from them and ourselves, we've documented all this litany of problems of the city. Mm-hmm. And if we look at the flip side in the spirit of this debate, if we look at the flip side, which is to say, so what shall we do as far as we are concerned? I want to throw very early in the debate that we need to actually start looking at the 4 elements of sustainability as a way forward, and starting with the people themselves. All the elements of sustainability is about people, it's not about things. So I would propose that we start looking at physical and spatial and environmental issues. Those are physical issues, whether we're looking at roads, whether we're looking at parks, whether we're looking at open spaces. If we start looking at those from people's perspective. Second, we should start looking at the urban economy itself. On one side, in terms of the potential to generate revenue for the city, and on the other side, the ability to get the residents of Nairobi, having resources in their pockets. So that means that we must think of the KEPSAs, we must think of the corporate world, and what they need in terms of infrastructure. But at the same time, we must think about the ordinary Nairobian, the one who's the mama mboga, the one selling, the hawker, the one chomaring mahindi and so on, and see how to assist these people, not only contribute to the economy, but also provide, for their families, as it were.
We'll delve deeper into the solutions in just a bit, but let's first establish what the main problems are, then we'll come to the solutions.
No problem.
Constant, in terms of planning, You're an urban planner. What do you see?
No, it's very interesting because I was reading a book called Nairobi, 1900 to 1950. Yeah. And in 1919, there were 3 problems identified: drainage, housing shortage, water shortage. 100 years later, I don't think we can talk about much changing there. But I want to point out 3 distinct issues that I believe are important for us moving forward.
Yeah.
One is participation at all levels. Participation of the people at all levels, at planning, in budgeting, in the development process.
Yeah.
The second thing is transparency. Transparency in what is happening within, be it departments within county, be it development processes, be it service provision. And the third thing is accountability. Okay, who is accountable to what? If this service is not provided, who is accountable for that? Participation, transparency, and accountability. And through that, we also now get into the proper, as a planner, we get into the proper planning process where we involve people as a priority in coming up with development control guidelines. Okay, the previous administration launched the Nairobi Integrated Urban Development Plan. Very good high-level policy document. They have not gone beyond that to come up with development control guidelines. So we're seeing developments happening haphazardly, almost anything happening anywhere. Yeah. They have not gone down to the level of local area planning. No one here can say he's done a plan for his ward or his neighborhood. Everything is based on a top-bottom approach, and therefore we also get into social justice issues. So we don't really have people being centered around the entire development process. Okay. So I'll prioritize those particular
three areas. Okay. Yeah. Kennedy, what do you think? Legally speaking, do we have any options? Can we compel the county government to do certain things?
The major problem, in my opinion, Trevor, is that Nairobi's institutions have collapsed. The office of the governor is no longer functional. The county assembly is no longer functional. And why have they collapsed? It is for political reasons. Where do we get the solution? The solution lies in politics. And the president can save us from this. The county assembly can save us from this. We have 2 provisions of the law where the solution lies. Either under Article 182, where the governor can be removed from office in a manner anticipated by the law, which is by way of impeachment, or under Article 192, where the head of state can suspend the county government. Even if we were to have a way forward on fixing all the problems that my friends have identified, without a political solution, we cannot move forward. Because the governor has arrested the development of the city. And the county executive has allowed him, and the county assembly has also allowed him to arrest this development.
Would you peg that on this current governor or the previous one?
Governor? The previous governor was equal a problem, but it was a problem that you could deal with institutionally. The county assembly could check on him. The former governor had a functional office. People would go to the office of the deputy governor or the county executives. As we speak today, we don't have a deputy governor. The county executives are not functional. The county assembly is not functional. So the previous regime, with all its misgivings, it was a functional regime. And remember, it was the first county government under the constitution. They had their own teething problems. But when Sonko came in, all systems collapsed. And Nairobians are suffering from what Shakespeare would call deserved misfortune. This is a problem they created themselves. And they are unable to get themselves out of this problem. Since it was brought by politics, it can only be solved through politics.
Mweke, you've been in the previous county government. What really happens there that we don't understand? Constant said that almost 100 years ago, the issue was drainage, housing, water. You came in, the issues are still drainage, housing, water. What is it that happens in there that we may not understand?
Well, I believe also there's 3 areas that brings the Nairobi that we have today, and the Nairobi that also we've had before. The first one is very basic: order. We identified about 10 nuisances that create complete disorder in Nairobi, from people dumping garbage and other waste on the road, from illegal structures coming up everywhere, from roadside cooking, from street families, from rogue matatus and rogue border borders, traffic, people overlapping and not following traffic lights. And it just brings the city to a complete standstill where there's completely no order. The citizens, they're here, they'll tell us, it's a tough political problem to solve because the citizens themselves, when you attempt to solve those problems, they say, mnaonea hawa watu wadogo. Somebody comes and puts up an illegal kiosk or an illegal structure outside your fence, and as city management, if you try to take them out, there's an uproar that huyu mtu tu ni hustler, anataka kufanya biashara, mbona mnamtoa hapa? You know, the matatus do whatever they want, and if you touch them, they say, you're spoiling our industry. Yeah.
Some of them attributed to the owners being the ones in government anyway.
Correct.
So you're able to tame them.
Yes, and that's why my friend Mwalimu at Kenya School of Law is saying it's a political problem. So what a politician naturally, because of survival tactics, they don't want to touch that voter. Because he says now, we gave you a chance, sasa mnatutoa hapa. So that complete disorder is what makes the city become dysfunctional. And really the people who suffer are the same voters. Because when there's a fire today in Kibera, you can't even get your fire trucks inside to go and save them. Even if the city management has bought fire trucks, have employed good firefighters, because the place is completely congested.
Many people say that is a failure on your side as the administrators.
Correct. These things mushroom up. And when they mushroom up, to get them out as administrators is you have to demolish them. And you saw what happens sometimes when you try to enforce the law. I was seeing a video the other day when a former minister was trying to enforce the law and demolish illegal structures that were built on government land. And the senator then called the president. The president said, stop. So we have to really balance. And I think the solution, I know we'll talk about that, lies with the Mwananchi. What does the Mwananchi really want? The Mwananchi goes and builds illegal buildings in Huruma and in Pipeline and in Tasia. And when they collapse, they're the ones who die. They're the ones who get injured. They're the ones who lose their brothers and sisters and mothers and children. Okay. So I think that the first one is order. We just must restore order and make sure that things operate the way they should. The second problem, very quickly, is something that we've become very used to as not just Nairobians, but as Kenyans, and it's killing us. Lack of following the law. We have laws that we just don't follow. Professor Alfred here spoke about the institution. We just don't have county management or government management that is competent enough to do the work. But we blatantly flout the law. The County Government Act is very clear on the kind of experience a CEC should have in their docket. So if you're headed finance, the law tells you that you must hire somebody with more than 5 years experience in the financial
But is that the case?
sector.
You've been there yourself.
If you just look at even all the county governments today, even in our time, the first county governments, you just do an audit. This person, have they followed the law in being employed? So if you give a doctor a carpenter's job and you expect them to build your kitchen or your bed, they don't have the know-how to do it, even if they had the goodwill. So I think we also need to follow the law, and if we followed the law, 80% of our problems as Kenyans will go away. We won't even need BBIs or anything. The problems will just disappear.
Mr. Ngacha, you are a former mayor as well, and I had Professor Omenya speak about urban economy. You and Joe Akech then tried to have a resettlement system. How did that play out? What was the plan and why did it fail?
Well, let me start by saying that when we got into the city, Nairobi was actually being downgraded from position from B to C by the United Nations, and that Gigiri was going to be moved out of here to Geneva. And we had to talk to UNDP and UN Habitat to find out what is it that we are not doing right, that must be done right so that we can be able to regain our status. It was a serious concern for the government of Honorable Mwai Kibaki at that particular time. So what we did in conjunction with then Lady Tibaijuka was to try and filter some people from some parts of the slum areas to some place outside Nairobi. We had identified some land in Athi River, remove them from here, take them there, and redo their structures. But the politicians came in and said we were actually disorganizing their voting blocks. And the people also said that if we go there, we may never be given an opportunity to come back. So we had a very, very big problem. And if you look at the situation, for example, in Kibera, and the way it is, Kibera came into being because of lack of proper planning. Let me say this. The only authority that plans is the council. And the council was denied the opportunity to plan by the central government. Because what happened is that when the economy collapsed in the late 80s and early 90s, people started rural-urban migration.
Yeah.
People came in here without any order. And it is the chiefs and the DOs that were allocating properties in those areas. So the city council was completely removed from planning. It became so bad for us that we are actually watching people build whatever they wanted to build. So these people, as they came in, have never identified themselves with the authorities in Nairobi. So they have become very difficult to manage. When the city council wants to manage them, it becomes very difficult. And we have always to run back to the provincial administration for assistance. So I think what we need to do is to have more and more of talk between the county government, the provincial administration, and work out proper ways of resettling these people. Kibera, for example, today generates about 390 tons of human waste a day. Where does it go? Because there's no formal way of disposal. It ends up into a small lake there. We used to have a beautiful lake further down the road. That lake today is a sewage. It's completely done and finished. Yeah. And I don't know whether we shall ever recover that. And it all arises out of inability of the two governments to sit and plan.
Okay. Yeah. Lee, you've been looking at options to fix this system. What are you suggesting?
Now let me just say that, first of all, the importance of Nairobi is higher than we have been able to appreciate as Kenyans. Yeah. We take Nairobi for granted. Nairobi is such an important city for not just the Kenyan people, but also for the East African people, and for the African people, and for the world. And therefore, it has been great disservice for us to watch Nairobi go dysfunctional, all of us quiet, yet it is such a strategic city. And therefore, this conversation is very important to all of us. And as private sector, I represent KEPSA, the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, and the business community. We have been thinking about the city of Nairobi for quite some time now. And we felt that this city, as we are now, we must make it work at the moment. And being an economic center, we need to make it possible for the Nairobi residents, first of all, to thrive. We start with the residents of Nairobi, accessing services, able to move easily. You know, the kind of movement that we experience, traffic jams, amount of time wasted every morning and every evening, people just trying to find their way around the city. It's one of the biggest challenges, a loss to everyone in terms of time and the economy.
But the question is, how do we fix it?
Yes, now let's come to fixing.
Yeah.
I just stated some of the challenges that we have. Now, in terms of fixing, we have looked at how we can be able to create a partnership model. For a long time, we kept quiet and waited for the county government to lead and show us the way. But we have found that it is important now to create a partnership where we take great interest of our city and participate in finding solutions. So we have come up with a program called the Nairobi for Africa Initiative. Nairobi for Africa Initiative is trying to position Nairobi again to be a city that works, not just complaining and just talking about it, but finding solutions within ourselves, whatever we can do. So we have been able to bring together various stakeholders within the city, the residents, the investors. We have looked at people in tourism, all shades of the ecosystem of the city.
Yeah.
We have been holding meetings, and we have identified that if we can be able to find solutions together within the means of the stakeholders of the city, we can be able to make a contribution that can change our city, partner with the county government, whichever form it is, partner with our elected leaders, and create a model that can be able to move us forward. Okay. That's what we are working on right now.
All right.
And we believe that through this partnership model and looking at solutions and starting with the small things, post some results, we can be able to make a difference around our environment, planning, security, our neighborhoods, and start to make the city work again. So that is what we are working on.
Moving one step at a time. Let me hear from the ladies. They are here, they have the microphone. What do you think are the issues? Start with your name, just introduce yourself, and then tell us what you think the solutions are. What are the challenges, and how do you think it can be fixed?
Okay, my name is Judy Lumumba. I think the challenge that Nairobi we have is gender parity, gender representation.
Okay.
The reason I'm saying this is that most women, let me talk in terms of public participation. We have a lot of public participation coming to Mashinani, but they come regularly, but there's no digging deep, like how many women were representing that public participation. Did their views count? We don't follow up. It's just public participation, but the number of women represented is still low. Another thing is youth, as young people. I'm talking in two brackets because I fall on the women bracket and I fall on the youth bracket. On youth bracket is still our voice. When we try to represent our voice, is not getting to a particular level. There is a glass ceiling. And I'll talk this back then when youths were trying to speak out through art. You remember the university spray thing? When we try to speak through art, it's being washed away. When you try to speak through songs, it's being washed away. So we're trying to live in a bora uhai
kind of situation.
Situation.
Okay.
Because when we try to come out, when we try to ask the government, when you try to present our papers to what we can do together collaboratively with the government, at some point we are being limited.
Whenever that question always comes up, some of the questions that people ask me when you advocate for the youth is, how involved are they? Have you ever heard of the County Integrated Development Plan?
Yes.
It's an open system. Have you ever taken part in it?
Yes.
When was this?
Okay, we are involved as youths. But you find that, let me use a good example. Public participation is being held like 3 kilometers away. You get my point? And this, when it's public, it's 3 kilometers away. Remember, we have youths who are disabled. They cannot make access to that place. Remember, we have unemployed youth. For them to live, for me to go to the public participation, air my view, still is not being implemented to the grassroots. I'd rather continue kushona that via to back, you know,
than take part.
Than take part, because I think the public participation, for me, why our voice is not being heard is it come already structured. So that the us being there is just a show off. Formality. You get my point?
I see.
Yes.
Pass the microphone to her and let's hear what she thinks. What do you think are some of the solutions? Start with your name.
My name is Edith Atieno, and I think that some of the solutions that we need for Nairobi to at least be a good county, to be a role model to other counties, I think we should start by leadership. The system of leadership we have in Nairobi is very poor. So we should begin by leadership. Look on how our leadership is structured, because mostly the Nairobi we have is basically structured on political issues and not economic issues.
You heard Ken saying that this is a problem of your own making. It's the youth who actually vote. Do you agree that you get the leaders you deserve?
No, actually, at some point we do get the leaders we deserve, but according to the election that were done in 2017, I don't think whether we got the leaders that we deserve. Yeah.
Though he was amongst the most highly voted for people. Just pass you the microphone back here, then we hear. Yes, very briefly, sir.
Yeah, my name is Nicholas Kimanzi.
Yes.
I'm a member Economic Liberation Front. And I think for a start, let's forget about the politics of the day. Nairobi has been planned politically instead of looking at it as an economic arm. So today, you have professors or the doctors, you can find the best of the best, the cream de la cream. You find them in Nairobi. And that is what has allowed rural to urban migration, so that Nairobi as a capital city cannot hold or does not have a capacity to hold the population that is coming from the rural to urban. So why were the planners in the first place, thinking of political implications when they were planning Nairobi capital city? Why is it that today, Aluya coming from Western, their first stage should be Kangemi? Why is it planned like that? Why is it that a Luo from Nyanza, they must first settle at Kibra? It is for political machinations and political control. Okay. So that if I want to vie in Nairobi and I am a Luo, then I have to go to Kibra, to my people, so that they can come and support me. Okay. Now, today, if we have a Dr. Mweke, say he's a gyna, a top gynecologist, instead of him practicing in Machakos, he is here in Nairobi. And people have to follow Dr. Mweke to Nairobi because he feels that Nairobi is where the opportunity is. Okay. Why is it that the best schools are in Nairobi? Why have we transferred? Why? It is political. Okay. So if we decided that the planning of Nairobi should be that of Mombasa and that of Kitui and that of another county, then we will not have the rural to urban migration. Okay. We will not have building collapsing in Tasia because Tasia cannot hold the population. Okay. That is supposed to hold. All right. Now, the solutions. Yeah. Going to solutions. Today, as we speak, I think when you have leaders that are focused on what they get politically out of the people they see, because some of the leaders that are looking at us, they are looking at the votes. They only see us as votes. They don't see us people that can make economic sense to them. Okay. When you have that as the main focus, then you will have every day people talking about my tribe. They will talk about you coming from Kitui, I build you a slum, or I create a slum if it's not there for Kamba people so that I can manipulate them politically. All right. So I think going forward, we should decentralize Nairobi politically, decentralize Nairobi in terms of resources, decentralize Nairobi in terms of happiness. If you want the best clubs, you will find them in Nairobi. I need to be able to be at Kitui to find the best happiness. Okay. So that you decentralize life. Yes. To other places. To the counties and other places. Well, thank you very much. You have the microphone there. Just start with your name. Okay. Yes. Since 1999 census, it shows that the youth in this country are 75%. And being that they are the majority, then that means we should focus on them. And I'll go to the solution because I like focusing on the solution than the problem. Number one, we should be shown how to fish than being given fish. And most of the time, we go to meetings and we're given something small, and you're like, after 2 days, you'll just go back there. Yeah. So we should be shown how to fish. And number two, through mentorship, how did you get there? Well, just walk with us. And then remove the mentality that youth are bad, because you are a young person at some point in life. So those are my solutions. Thank you. All right, let's hear back there very briefly.
Oh, thank you. My name is Walter Bulleti from National Youth Council. Quick one. One of the challenge I see as we sit here is the services we get from Nairobi. I think we get the worst services, and then the Nairobi expect so much. Where most of us live, you find the security, the roads, everything is bad. But the Nairobi will come around, they want to collect taxes from us, from our shops, from anywhere. Sometimes you walk around Parklands area, they even know the place is muggy. Yeah. But the city council are collecting parking from vehicles. I think there is a lot of the services that's being done in Nairobi. Number two, the leadership issue. I think we have a problem with leadership. Yeah. And I want to challenge the young people here and listening to me somewhere. We are swayed very easily by 100 bob. Then we start crying for the next 5 years. Young people are singing everywhere. They want Songo, they want Waititu. We have a problem. We are the one now, I don't know if we are celebrating or we are crying. So I think we need to take leadership seriously. When it comes to electing people, can you make the right decision? You can get 100 bob today, but tomorrow you suffer for the next 5 years. Okay. So we want to make the right decision and we'll move ahead as a team.
Okay, let's hear from the ladies back there, the two of them. Yeah, very briefly.
Hello, my name is Kaviti Stella, youth advocate from Siasa Place. I feel that we need to address the integrity part of it. Mr. Mweke, you've been in the government. Do you feel we need to question integrity?
Absolutely.
And how do we do it?
Follow the law.
Yes, following the law can be one channel. But my question is, why are we youths being framed as bad people? I'll talk about extrajudicial killings. 2, I'll talk about bringing sanity for young people. Why are we being pushed to the limit to doing what is not supposed to be ours? Because there's no way I'll go out there to hustle and someone somewhere seated, he's eating my sweat. Someone somewhere, he's benefiting for what I need to benefit from.
All right. Let's hear from you as well.
I'm Leila Chepkemoi. I wanted to second my brother about the leadership structures. All the structures are politicized. To an extent, till nyumba kumi and maendeleo wanawake. So if we change that narratives, because they're all politicized, it's a politician who put somebody there because for the benefits or either way. Okay. So we need to restructure these things. When these leaders are being elected, we as Nairobians, we have maybe a policy to change that.
Okay. Prof, we seem to be narrowing down to the political leadership here. But also, Mweke is here and he tells us that sometimes even the political leadership themselves are somehow incapacitated because the people themselves will go to court, stop you from destroying those structures. The people themselves will go to court, stop you from making that pathway in Kibra. Is that the only problem we have, really?
I think I would like to disagree a little bit with my good friend Jonathan Mweke. I think the reason why people elect leadership in place is very simple. From time immemorial, it has been largely monopoly of violence. We know that when we cannot, so many things we can't do them ourselves. If I start quarreling with my neighbor for dropping garbage, or start quarreling with the Matatu people for stopping at the wrong places as a citizen, I'm jeopardizing my life. So what do? We get all our power together and give it to these people that we elect. And that's why the law is there. That's why the Constitution is there. Yeah. I find it a bit defeatist when you say that you're in the office, but you don't want to exercise the power and the authority that comes to that office. The question we'll be asking is that does the city-county have enough instruments to deal with the chaos within the city? And if they don't have, why haven't they asked for more? I would say they actually do. Those powers are actually in the Constitution. Secondly, I would really like to agree with the situation that our problem has always been political. Yeah. And Lawrence knows those who were in the City Hall. We did experience in the old City Hall, we experienced very interesting situations where the full council would meet. And then the councillors would decide that some particular place had to be, demolished and so on for not complying. And then they would leave this to the officers. the town clerks and so on. Before the town clerks would have reached the place, the same councillors would have gone, rounded the people to stop City Hall from executing a decision they made.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the political class are quite confused.
Yeah.
They don't understand the powers that they have. They don't understand administrative justice. And therefore, really, I mean, they're not just doing the bit.
What they should do.
But having highlighted that, we also have another layer of problem, very unique for Nairobi. It is between the two, and that has been alluded to. It is between the national government and the county government. And again, Jonathan highlighted a really dramatic case where the city is trying to enforce, and no less than the president is standing on the way of that enforcement. In fact, a minister is trying to enforce, and then the city, together with the president, are actually blocking things because you're saying, these are my voters. Our friend there highlighted the same story. We know the slums in Westlands were created by politicians. Fred Gumo was one major one. So we're finding a situation where the political class in the city are at the forefront of creating the city's problems, including the youth violence that we are talking about, including the extrajudicial killings that we are talking about. Yet they're meant to be the ones who are leading that particular process. Trevor, just a quick one before I close on this. What fascinates me with Kenya, not just the city of Nairobi, is that if you see somebody breaking the law with impunity, they must be in government.
Yes.
If you see somebody not obeying traffic laws, it is government and the UN that we are talking about in Nairobi here. And if you see somebody following the laws in this country, ni mtu mdogo. The truth of the matter is that the hawkers follow the law, the mamambogas follow the law. They can be made to follow the law. The people who break the law with impunity are those in power. And I see them on traffic. I once had to block somebody. Because I'm saying, really, I mean, you should be the one leading us in obeying the law. Because you're an officer who's enforcing the law. That's your role. Myself, I'm a citizen of the city. I'm meant to be benefiting from the order, again, that Jonathan was talking about. But we actually have a country where those in power think that immediately you get into power, the first thing that you must do is that you're above the law, so you can do whatever you want to do. You can overlap, you can grab land, you can do all sorts of things. You rarely get an ordinary citizen being taken to court for any serious breaches of law. Really, I mean.
Okay. All right, and now, Jonathan Mweke, I'll give you a right of response as well as Mr. Lawrence Gacha, because now you are the leadership of this particular county, and he says that the leadership is confused. But that is right after the break. Keep your views coming as well. Use the hashtag Monday Report at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. 22422 is the SMS line as well. See you in just a bit.